Getting a new puppy is a super exciting time, and it might end up being a little bit of a stressful situation if you don't go into that relationship prepared. Today, we're going to talk all about the things that you need to do to make sure that you are prepared for bringing home your new puppy. I'm Instructor Shannon. Welcome back to McCann Dogs. There's so much to do when you're planning for a new puppy. And a lot of the times I think that sort of like Christmas, right? It gets so overwhelming to think about all the things that need to be done that you kind of get to Christmas and then you're like, oh, now I need to scramble. And of course, that's a disaster, right?
Yes.
Same thing with our puppies. When we bring home a new puppy, I want to be able to enjoy my puppy, not be now scrambling to find all of the things that I need to find and, in backtracking to try to prepare for things. So, all of the prep work is so important. So important. And I'm a planner. I really like to have my ducks in a row. And maybe that's why I have duck tollers.
Maybe. Wow. Or you could just get a flock of ducks.
I could.
Yes.
Maybe that was the problem. I just needed to get ducks to begin with instead of duck tollers. No, but seriously, like all of the procrastination that might happen if you get overwhelmed by the planning phase of puppies it's so much more overwhelming too. So we like to make sure that we're set up in my house, and I do all of my shopping and I do all my planning, and I thought that would be a good thing to sit and chat about today. So
sounds good. Yeah. And I must say that for some things, I'm a procrastinator.
Okay.
Like if I'm going on vacation, I panic pack early that morning or late that night. Paying my bills. It's like, oh, I don't want to pay a bill.
No,
I don't want to do that. It's not that I don't want to pay the bill. It's just that it's so mundane to sit there and do my online banking. So I procrastinate them. But getting a puppy is so much fun.
Yes.
I'm well prepared way before time, because it's funny how you don't procrastinate for fun things, but you do for not fun things.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, and just having like all of that time to wait for the puppy, right? Can you imagine if you were spending all that time waiting for the puppy, and as you're waiting for the puppy, each time you're like, oh, I have to get this, and I haven't done any of that yet. And you know what? It's too stressful and I can't deal with it. But you're constantly thinking about bringing home this puppy because, of course, it's like how many more sleeps?
Right.
And the anticipation is so exciting. So, of course, then you're going to add so much stress to your life because every time you think about the puppy and how many more days until the puppy comes home, oh my gosh, I have so much to do before then, and the time keeps getting shorter. That's my MO around Christmas, actually. Definitely not about getting a puppy. When I'm getting a puppy, I am a planner. I've got all my lists ready. I've got my house organized. Like everything is just planned down to the T with this thing. And I will tell you that bringing a puppy into my home is never stressful for me because of that planning.
Right.
But Christmas, I do not like Christmas. I love spending time with my family on Christmas Day. I love it when everything has come together. But anticipating Christmas coming, it's a negative for me.
Yes.
And that's because I put off. So,
well, so I found Christmas this year to be different. I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment, so I don't have a house, which I've always had. And my son and his girlfriend are coming from the Canadian Coast Guard College out in, they're on their winter break out in Nova Scotia. And so now I have to, normally, Ty had his own bedroom all set up in the house and all his stuff is there. They had their own bathroom. They were all set. But now they're coming into a 1-bedroom apartment. Ty's things are all packed away. Where's everyone going to sleep? How are we all going to squish in there? So Christmas this year is very different. I'm excited to show them my apartment because I do love my apartment, but they won't have the privacy. So it's a little bit more stressful, and I know they'll take it in stride. They're great, great young adults, and, they understand, but it's going to be different. So I'm a little bit, last night I looked out some of Ty's things and his clothes that he has here and, making plans where everyone's going to sleep. And yes.
Well, I think that when they get there, you'll forget all about the stress. And even if they have to sleep outside, I'm just kidding. You'll all have a good time.
Right.
It'll be nice. You'll be in closer quarters.
Exactly.
So you'll get to spend even more more time
Right.
together.
Yes. And
rubbing
of course,
elbows and
they'll
enjoying each
they'll
other.
visit with her family as well too. So they'll get a break from me. But
Gotcha.
yeah, Honda and I are both excited to have them come back. We haven't seen them since summer.
Fantastic. That will be so nice to visit. So when we are when we're thinking about puppies, you know, we need to do better than the Shannon Christmas person, right? We definitely need to do a better job than that. And I think that starts with, we've done an episode on choosing a breed and choosing the right breed for you and all of the things that you need to consider, because it's about so much more than just looks. If you're picking your puppy based solely on looks and what appeals to you in terms of looks, you may or may not be horrendously disappointed when you bring that dog home and you realize that their behavior and their energy level and all of those things don't match your lifestyle.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Some of the most beautiful breeds aren't that popular.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why they're not that popular.
Yeah.
Likewise, you know, a lot of people like a real kind of, you know, macho tough look, but some of those breeds aren't very popular either. And they're for experienced dog owners.
Yeah. They can be a lot. I started with a Rottweiler and, in hindsight, like I would have flipped that and started with the Toller first. But having said that, to be quite honest,
you learned dog training very quickly.
Yes. Yeah. And my Rottweiler she was hard and tough, but she also loved to work. She had this amazing work ethic and she was eager to do it. So as long as I could get my act together and give her the right information, she was a gem. Whereas with my first Toller, he was an incredibly independent dog. And I really struggled to build a good, solid relationship with him. And of course, you know, once we did build that relationship, we were away to the races and everything was gold for a lot of years, but it took me a while to get there. So actually, having said all that, I probably wouldn't have started with that first Toller first. But then I had my second Toller was a pretty easy Toller. He was very, very busy and very high, but he only had eyes for me. Like I really didn't have to put in the work to build the relationship with him. He just instantly knew, oh, that's my work. That's the person that is going to provide me with work. And therefore I love her. There was so much reinforcement in the work for him. And I provided the outlet for the work that he just he had eyes for nothing but me. So that was great. And then onward and upward. I've had quite a lot of different experiences with my Tollers. They're all
which goes to show a lot of people will come to our classes and they say, I've always had Labradors and none of them have given me a problem except for this one.
Yeah.
And it says, I always say, well, each dog's an individual.
Absolutely.
A Labrador is not a cookie cutter. Like the next Labrador is not going to be the next Labrador, not going to be the next Labrador.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah, think of that when you get your breed too. If you've loved your last Labrador, then look for that same bloodline.
Yeah.
You know, go back, try to contact that breeder or research pedigrees, try to find those similar bloodlines to keep that same temperament you like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice for sure. So I would say the first thing when you're planning for your puppy is to choose wisely when it comes to breed. And if you have your heart set on a breed, that's not to say that, you know, if it's not necessarily going to fit your lifestyle well, that's not to say that you can't bring home that breed and make some adjustments to your lifestyle. But you need to know heading into it that this is going to be a necessity. This breed is not going to be happy being a couch potato all week long and then being a weekend warrior, for example. Some of our energetic working dogs, they need a lot more than that. So.
Right, yes. Or we always get the question, my Australian Shepherd is trying to herd the children and nip them. Well, that's the genetics of that breed.
Yes.
Of course we can fix that and manage it and train it, but you should have expected that coming in. Yes, that you're going to have to deal with that.
Absolutely. And I think when you're picking a breed, one of the best sources of information that you could possibly have is the breeders. So, finding an Australian Shepherd breeder and having a few questions for them to help you decide if that's going to be the right breed for you. That's a really great jumping off point. Meet some people that own the breed. Go out and meet several of the breed as well. Sometimes just meeting one of that breed, you might fall in love with that individual dog, but that dog might not really be representative of the breed.
Right, yes.
And I think a big part of that as well, like a lot of the times people will see a really well-trained version of that breed. So for example, you know, if I came and met one of your Malinois, for example, I would probably have a very different perspective on what the Malinois seems like if I didn't understand how much work actually went into that to create whatever energy I was attracted to. You know, probably you're going to be attracted to the obedience in the dog. Oh, they're so demure. They're so interested in looking at you. They're so focused.
Yes. And just driven the drive to work. And the verbal control I had was, you know, like was amazing. But that dog was a full-time job for me. I put a lot of work into that dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. So if I were breeding dogs, for example, I would make sure that when I had people coming to look at Toller puppies, not that I would keep my house dirty, but I wouldn't vacuum for a couple of days before that.
That's
I would
a good
make
idea,
sure that people could come in and go home covered in Toller.
Right, yeah,
So they could get a definitive perspective on what their life is going to be like, you know, similar to a Sheltie, right?
Right. Oh my goodness, yes.
I would maybe have them experience, you know, coming and watching as I groomed one of those Shelties, for example. Like, this is what your life is actually going to
yes, yes. Or have them ring the doorbell and listen to the Sheltie choir.
Yeah, there you go. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So once you do decide on a breed, so say you're getting another Sheltie, what kind of questions do you have for the breeder that are going to help set you up for a good situation with your new Sheltie puppy?
Well, I'm definitely going to ask about how much exercise is this dog going to need? Am I going to need like lots and lots of extensive dog training? You know, will I need to go to can I do one course or am I going to have to do multiple courses to really get a hold of this dog? What are they like with people that come over? Are they going to be nervous of my children's friends, or are they going to be pouncing on my friends as they come over? You know, health questions, health concerns. What should I be watching for?
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second, because a lot of people might not know that there are standard tests often within any given breed, usually governed by some sort of a breed club that sort of keeps a code of ethics for the different things that you need to make sure are in place if you are going to breed the dog. And of course, I mean, you know, there's no like, people can join a club and then pretend to toe the line as much as possible and sign the code of ethics or agree to the code of ethics and then go and do whatever they want anyways. So do your due diligence as much as possible. But some of these questions to ask from a breeder, like if I were to, I mean, I am getting another Toller puppy, and of course I know unequivocally that the breeder will provide me with copies of all of the health certificates from the parents and whatnot, things like hips and eyes. There's all sorts of testing that we can do on a genetic level to make sure that that dog is going to have the best chance of passing on good quality genetics to those puppies. So good hips, you know, not have some sort of a genetic eye anomaly that we can test for ahead of time. You know, if we know that this pairing, when bred together, has a possibility of producing this eye disease, for example, you know, has the breeder made sure that that's not going to happen, or you know, where are we at? And I always say, like, if you know the breeder, if you have a personal relationship with the breeder and you know that they're on the up and up, that's one thing. But if you're entering into sort of a new world and a breeder that you're just meeting for the first time, as a good breeder, they should not be offended when you ask to see proof of these things, or when you ask to maybe get a referral from one of their puppy owners. Right. So there's all sorts of different testing setups. OFA is what's used a lot in this area. And you can go on the OFA website and you can look up that dog, provided they've had tests done by OFA and certified by OFA. And then you can look up those tests as well. So sometimes you can find those tests outside of even asking the breeder. You can just find them on the OFA website.
And a common misconception is people often think that purebred dogs are unhealthy and mixed breeds are healthy.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know where that has come from.
Yeah, it's that whole hybrid vigor myth.
Yes, mixed breeds have just as many issues as purebred dogs. I worked at a referral veterinary hospital, and I saw just as many mixed breeds coming in with bad hips, with bad hearts, with bad eyes, with bad elbows.
Yeah. Sometimes you're actually doubling up on the problems. Whereas, say PRA, for example, progressive retinal atrophy is an issue in tollers. So I know this. So I am very, very much aware. I know the breeders that I work with are testing their breeding stock for PRA. But if somebody is just taking, their golden retriever and breeding it to the Bernese Mountain Dog down the street, because why not? They think that they want to have puppies and this seems like a good idea. They're not necessarily doing those tests. They're not necessarily even going to be aware that those are issues within the breed if they're not working with a breed community and they're not, well advised on the things to be concerned with for that particular breed. So now if golden retrievers have PRA issues and Bernese Mountain Dogs have PRA issues and nobody really checks, then now you're doubling up on those things. So it definitely is a myth that there's this hybrid vigor thing.
And I remember one of a very sad moment at the veterinary hospital was a family coming in to euthanize I think it was 4 or 5 month old golden retriever puppy with an inherited heart condition. And, they had got the dog from a breeder who... trying to keep costs down. I'm not going to do any health checks.
Yeah, so that is a red flag.
Yes.
If you ever see, I'm keeping costs down and skipping vaccination. I'm keeping costs down to skip and skipping health testing. I'm skipping registration. Sometimes registration is a little bit of a less important thing based on what you want to do with the dog, but the other things are very important.
Right, yes.
I would run if I heard a breeder
this
say.
family had, bought a golden retriever for cheaper because the breeder had decided not to do anything, but now look at the price the family paid. Like, my heart broke for that family and my heart broke for that little puppy.
Oh my goodness.
And it was a very sad evening.
Yeah.
We all felt terrible. Seeing a young puppy that, was basically, it was drowning in fluids that were in the family, it was just awful. So, things can happen and things can happen with your best diligence too, but be extra diligent. Make sure you're getting it from a breeder who stands behind that dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
When Atari, my Sheltie, had some health issues, the breeder immediately refunded my money, my purchase price. I just let her know that Atari was having these specific health issues. And 5 minutes later, all of a sudden, I got a note in my bank account that there'd been an e-transfer. And it was my full purchase price. So I could put towards my vet bills.
Oh, good.
And, she didn't have to do that. Atari was 6 years old.
Yeah.
But she thought, no, this shouldn't have happened. So... a good breeder is worth their weight in gold.
Yes.
They're not in it for the money. They're in it for the love of the dog.
That is brilliant what you just said. And a good breeder will take responsibility for their dogs that they have produced for the lifetime of those dogs.
And they don't hide issues either.
No.
They don't sweep something under the carpet. They are upfront. It's like, well, you know what? I have had some dogs with epilepsy in the past from that bloodline, but I'm not breeding that bloodline anymore, but I'm moving forward. But
yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. We have all of these great genetic tests now for the breeding game, and it's just great information to be able to produce the most healthy puppies possible. So ask those questions for sure of the breeder. Talk about the dog's tendencies, talk about the lines that they're producing. Are they breeding? So if they're breeding labs, for example, are they breeding for the show ring or are they breeding for field? Unfortunately, there's a very different dog in both of those corners. And I could go on for quite a while about breed split and how unfortunate it is, but that's a whole other episode.
Right. Yes.
So we'll just say, you can have a dog that is the same breed that is incredibly different from another dog in that same breed.
Yes.
So
I remember in our classes once we had, I think it was a golden retriever, and we had an elderly lady with a field bred, so a hunting bred golden retriever.
Which means it's busy.
That dog was a fireball, and this poor lady. And then we had a young family with a golden retriever that had been more bred for companionship. And it was just lump-a-dump-a-dump, like just a lovely, calm. And I remember thinking, if only we could swap those two, because this young family had so much energy and had the oomph to work with that field-bred dog. Oh. And this elderly lady would have been much better to have the more couch potato golden. And I thought, here's the same breed and two very different bloodlines.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And you want to get one that is going to match your lifestyle.
Yes.
So a good breeder will talk to you about the energy levels and the expectations, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and don't fall in love with the conformation show dog too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Recently there was, I think the Philadelphia Dog Show was on TV, and I was watching, and they're so beautifully groomed. And of course I saw the Afghan hound, and it was like, oh, I must own an Afghan hound. But then, afterwards it's like, oh, my Afghan hound won't look like that. It'll look like something that the cat just dragged in from a windstorm. There's no way I could keep that dog groomed.
I literally, if I can keep my tollers clean after grooming for a day, I'm thrilled. Because usually that's all it takes for them to get back in the mud and back in the burrs. And like, I like being outdoors and I like being in the muck with them. So I don't begrudge it at all. But sometimes after I've spent a good long time grooming and cleaning and doing all the things, I think, you know what? We're not going to adventure until tomorrow because I just want to look at you nice and clean for at least 24 hours. I promise you can get filthy again, but just give me 24 hours.
Yes. So yeah, get a breed that you don't love the beautiful, clean grooming look, because that can take hours and hours to achieve.
Yeah.
You have to love it when it looks its worst.
Yeah. Absolutely. Something else that I really like to do in conjunction with the breeder is make sure that I bring a towel or a blanket or something as I get close to bringing the puppy home. I want to have something that I can put with the puppy when they get to my house that's going to help them sort of settle in a little bit. So I like to leave the breeder with like a towel or a blanket or maybe a stuffed toy that they can leave in the whelping box. They can, mom
Pair
can
of your
maybe
old
play
underwear.
well, next time that's what's going to happen. Mom can maybe play with the toy a little bit or lay on the blanket.
Idea,
The litter mates might, tear at it a little bit. They're not going to tear it apart. And then when I pick up my puppy, I'm also going to take that blanket back with me, and that gives that nice little bit of comfort as I bring my puppy into the house, and they still have that familiar smell of mom and litter mates there.
Yes, I've had the breeders, one breeder give me just automatically give me one, like a tea towel that the puppies had been sleeping on. Perfect. I think she had one for everybody in the litter, but so I got this like tea towel.
Yeah, a good conscious breeder will do things like that. So Nettie came home with a little stuffed buffalo toy that had been in the whelping box with everybody, and I still have it, but it has a hole in its butt because
you need to get out your sewing kit, Shannon.
Yeah. So normally I would never leave a stuffed toy in with any of my dogs, but he really liked it and he just kind of hung out with it really nicely. So I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I'm just going to push my luck a little bit here. I mean, it was typically when he was crated with me at work under my desk at work. So he was really close at hand anyways. And as it happened, I heard a strange noise coming from the crate and I looked inside, and this was a couple of months after bringing him home. I looked inside the crate and I was like, oh, your buffalo has a little wound in its butt. So then at that point I took it out of the crate because
it was hunted.
It was no longer a safe buffalo. Yeah. Actually, I took a picture and labeled it like the Great Buffalo Hunter or something like that. Nettie, the Great Buffalo Hunter. He loved his buffalo for a long time, and I kept taking like the weekly growth pictures beside the buffalo.
That's always
so
fun.
The buffalo started out being about, well, not quite the same size as Ned, but close, and then got smaller and smaller and smaller. I don't know why it shrunk though.
Weird.
Boom. So the other thing that I'll spend a lot of time doing is making shopping lists and shopping. So I want to make sure I have everything that I need. And I'm sort of at the point in my dog life that I really don't need to shop for a lot of new stuff. But I like to have like, one toy that's specifically for that puppy, and I like to make sure I have
their own collar too, because I love to save my puppy collar and look back at how tiny they are.
Absolutely. Typically you'll get sent home with a puppy collar, but you'll want to replace that pretty quickly. So a collar, a leash, a house line. Let's talk about a house line for a second, because I think this is one of the most important things to prep for, is to have the ability to catch your puppy.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that we're set up well. So part of our planning is making sure that we have an appropriate house line that is an appropriate length for our puppy. So what I mean by that, if I have a Chihuahua puppy with a 6-foot house leash, that gives me a lot of leash to deal with. If I have a Great Dane puppy with a 6-foot leash, it doesn't give me a lot of leash to deal with. So basically, I want to have enough leash that I can easily, without having to chase my puppy, step on it, just to step on the leash, just to be able to use it as a safety brake, and then I can address any issues from there. So
yes, and I have many different house lines of many different lengths, and I tend to make my own. I just buy some rope from a hardware store, and I cut it into different lengths, and then I tie leash clips on the end of it. So I have many that I can keep some in the car. I can keep some at the back door, at the front door. There's house lines all over my house. Not right now because I don't have a puppy, but there used to be. And I have all different lengths, for all different things. And puppies will pee on their house lines sometimes. Yep. So now I got a clean one that I can just pull out right away. So have a few house lines. Just don't have one.
Yeah. And if you would like to get a purpose-built house line, we have those available as well that we sell in McCann Dogs at the McCannDogs.store website. You can pick up one of those on your own as well. A great little tip if you do have a puppy that pees on the house line or the leash or something of that nature, I'll often put them in the dishwasher.
Oh, I've never thought about. I've put Kongs in the dishwasher. My Kongs.
Yeah. The dishwasher's so hot.
Yes.
That it gets everything super spiffy and clean.
Right.
I usually, if it's a peed on house line, I will usually put it in the dishwasher solo.
Right. Yeah.
Not with my dishes. But if it's just a regular, sometimes I just do a load of dog collars and leashes.
Wow.
That can go in the dishwasher. No, seriously though, they're really good for cleaning collars. Just that heat takes the smell out.
And they're not getting spun all around like in the wash and getting tangled all around your bra straps.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So I tend to get the embroidered collars. So I will get a nylon collar, and then I will actually have their phone number embroidered into it and their name embroidered into it. And the reason I do that is, first off, I don't like dangling tags. I don't like hearing them. I don't like worrying that they're going to get caught on things. So I'm not a tag fan, but I do like to make sure that my dogs have microchip, and I like to make sure that my dogs have ID on their collar. So that's in the embroidery piece of things.
Right.
And those collars tend to, like, after you've got the collar and had it embroidered, it tends to be a pretty decent investment.
Right.
So I want to keep those forever. And
Shannon, and it's handy. If, say, you were in one of those Disney rom-coms, if you were at the dog park, which we don't advocate, the man or woman, all they have to do is just read your dog's phone number off their collar, and they can call you that way.
That's how I'm going to meet my next partner.
Through your dog's embroidered collar.
Oh my gosh. I made a comment the other day, and I actually said I'm the type of person whose eyes literally almost pop out of their head from rolling so hard when I'm watching a formulaic rom-com. That one fits perfectly.
We have one.
Do that
Hallmark, the Hallmark Channel. Let's call us. We are going to screenwrite this.
That's what it was. It was the Allbark Channel. It was a dog joke about typical rom-coms.
From the dog's perspective.
The Allbark Channel. Yeah. That's what it was. I forgot about that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so shopping lists. Get all your stuff prepared. We actually have we have a puppy prep guide that we have put together so that if anybody would like to have a little bit of a leg up when it comes to planning for their puppy, we can help out with that. And we've basically taken the entire task of preparing for your puppy and broken it down into steps and stages and things that you need to do. And then we've also put in there a lot of information about the common mistakes that people tend to make, so that right off the hop, you can start with the right advice and you're not making mistakes and not even aware that they are mistakes that are going to make your job harder in the long run.
Right. Yes. So. I just was watching the other day, we have a new YouTube video about 5 mistakes we make that actually encourage your dog to nip you.
Yes.
So, watching videos like that too, because sometimes we're doing things, we don't want our puppy to nip us, but our body language or our voice is inviting the puppy to nip us, and we don't know it.
Yeah.
So being prepared is so good.
It truly is. And knowing the common pitfalls ahead of time and heading into it just makes all the difference in the world.
Yes.
So
I also like to choose my veterinarian before I get the puppy. So I know I'm getting a puppy. I know it's going to have to go to the vet for a vet check. So I'm going to call before I get the puppy and choose a vet clinic.
Yeah.
I used to live out in Nova Scotia, and not all vet clinics out there were accepting new patients.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I moved to Dunnville and I called the local clinic there, which is really close drive for me from my house. And unfortunately, they weren't taking new patients in either.
Yes.
So I ended up having to make alternative plans.
Yes. So yeah, it's good. And, even better, some vet clinics will, invite you to come in and have a meet and greet with the staff or the vet. And, that's a great thing to do too, because, everyone has their own little flavor. So you want to make sure you find a flavor you like.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would say that about the whole village, right? Pick your whole village.
Yes.
You looked at me like I was crazy.
A village, I was thinking,
what? What are you talking about? The village. The village.
The village people. YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA.
Okay, that was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. That was one of my favorite moments. So yeah, the whole village, right? Who's going to look after your puppy if you need somebody to come in through the day because you've got a long work day, you know? How are you going to facilitate getting back to work and making sure that your puppy is set up? What if you are going on vacation and you can't take the puppy with you, scrambling at the last minute?
There could be an emergency.
Yeah.
I know my parents, my mom had knee surgery. She came off a waiting list, and very quickly they needed to find somewhere for their dog to stay while my mom was in for knee surgery. Gotcha. So, have a good relationship with someone that can take the dog quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And arrange that ahead of time so that you know who's available and that they're willing, et cetera, and you're not scrambling at that last minute. Yeah. All of the things, find your trainer, find your vet.
Look at the dog trainers in the area and choose. You might even go and visit the facilities well before you get your puppy and say, I like this method. I don't like that method. I like this method. So you know what school you want to go to.
Yes, absolutely. And you can also talk to them about, do they have experience with your breed of dog? Because as much as, when you're training a dog, there's a lot of basics that are sort of similar across the board. There's also a lot of differences. There's a lot of breed tendency that we need to make sure we know how to harness. We talked a little bit about Aussies, right? Being a herding breed.
Right.
They're going to be excited to chase and nip, and all those things are going to be things that you'll need to get under wraps so that Aussie can live a harmonious life with you and your family. So are you picking a trainer who has experience with that so that they can definitely get you on the right track and they can give you the right exercises to practice to train this puppy so that they're not always chasing the kids and trying to nip at their ankles, et cetera, and that behavior is channeled somehow.
Right, yes.
Because that need is still in the puppy, right? You're never going to train out the desire to herd from a herding breed.
No.
So we need to have some way of just helping our dogs feel fulfilled and feel satiated and satisfied with those things. So sometimes that's just retrieving work. Sometimes that's jogging with your dog. We don't recommend jogging with young puppies, of course.
Right, yeah.
But, there's all sorts of activities that we play. Some people get into things like tray ball with their dogs that have great herding instinct, which is basically herding a big ball.
Right, yeah.
But it's a great activity and the dog doesn't know any different. They just know that they're feeling great with this and they're loving it and they're getting that pent up energy out and their needs are being met and you're happy because you're enjoying training your dog and you're enjoying watching them learn. And I love watching instinct come out.
I do too.
Honestly, I could sit all day and just watch animals.
Right, yes. Even squirrels. I like watching the squirrels around my house.
Oh my gosh, the killdeer.
Oh,
Every time I see killdeer, I go into these deep thoughts about how do they instinctively know?
Right.
That is so cool that they just know. My new place, there's lots of coyote activity.
Oh, coyotes. I say killdeers. I thought, I'm coming over right away. I love little killdeer. I saw little killdeer babies once. They were so cute. They were like an inch tall. I wanted them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I absolutely love when I'm walking. We frequently have them on the McCann property in the parking lot, of course, because they lay their eggs on the ground and usually in a camouflaged area, which of course means that gravel is very appealing for them for that. So we would often have cones set out in the McCann Dogs parking lot so people wouldn't drive over the killdeer nest.
Right.
But there's been so many times over the years that as I'm walking with my dogs on the property, I see this killdeer feigning a broken wing. And that's the thing that it's just fascinating to me that they understand how to do that. They understand how to manipulate and pretend so that they can lure the predator away from their nest. And then, of course, the predator never catches the killdeer because as soon as they get close, they can fly away and go, I was just kidding.
Yes.
My wing's fine. Look at it flapping.
Yes. So we love the genetics of the killdeer, but people get dog breeds and they don't love the genetics of their breed sometimes, which is avoidable. Then you maybe shouldn't have chose that breed.
Yeah, absolutely. So go into it with some knowledge and some understanding, and you will have a much easier time falling head over heels in love with your dog and enjoying a wonderful life together.
Right. Yes.
Drives are so very, very important. Actually, speaking of drives, that's another thing that is good to
does your
plan
dog fit in your car?
Yeah.
That's what you're going to say, right?
Well, I mean, that's definitely a big piece of it. If you have a tiny little Smart for 2 car and you decide you want a Great Dane,
that's a squish.
that might pop. I don't know if you could even do that. Like, I don't think physically it could
I don't
happen.
know.
I'm surprised that people even fit in those cars sometimes.
Right, yes.
And the tires on them.
Oh, they're so tiny.
Yeah. I mean,
I've had donuts at Tim Hortons that are bigger than those tires.
We should go and see if anyone notices if we switch their Smart for 2 with the tires for donuts.
I'll take a bite out of the donut so they might notice.
That'll be a limping Smart for 2 car then. Oh my goodness. But yeah, definitely you want to make sure that you can transport that dog.
Right.
So if you can't physically transport it in your vehicle, or if you don't have a vehicle, maybe, what are the arrangements you're going to make when you need to take the dog to the vet, if you have an emergency and you need to transport them, I mean, you can probably get through a lot of day-to-day life without having a car with a dog. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Right.
But sometimes you absolutely need one. So
yes.
knowing a pet taxi in the area or knowing somebody who doesn't
or like Ubers that will take a dog. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would also, with the idea of driving, I would plan for the drive home with the puppy.
Yes.
So that you are like, a lot of the times people think that they can just let the dog loose in the car. And first off, I shouldn't even giggle because it's so unsafe.
Yes.
It's frightening how unsafe it is to let dogs ride loose in the vehicles. I mean, not just for the dog, but also for everybody in the vehicle as well, because a loose dog in a car in an accident or a hard braking situation becomes a projectile.
Yes.
So they are going to hit other things in the vehicle. They might end up going through the front window like that. It really is a scary situation.
Yes.
If you can't, sorry.
I was just going to say, some of my most favorite memories of when I was a child, because I grew up in a dog show family, and when I was a little girl, there were crates, but they weren't as common as they are now.
Okay.
I'm 55, so... Oh, no, I'm 56. It was my birthday last week.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
And I had the same thing on my birthday. I was like, wait a minute, what age am I? Huh. I actually ended up being a year younger than I thought I was, because I thought I was turning 48, a year younger.
Yeah.
And I was actually turning 47. So as you get older, you kind of forget to keep accumulating years.
Yes.
My nephew just celebrated his 10th birthday, and like, for him, it was like such a huge
10,
thing, this birthday number hitting double digits. And like, I remember those feelings and being like, I'm 11 and I'm 12.
I'm like 12 and a half.
Yeah, exactly. But now I'm like, I don't know. How old am I? Okay, what year is it? I'm born in November. So yeah, it's still early in the year. Oh, how many times in a...
So when I was a little girl, back to our story, crates weren't, you just didn't see them. Like, they were there, but they weren't as common. And we always brought our new puppies home in a cardboard box. So my parents they'd go to the liquor store, because they'd always had cardboard boxes at the liquor store, or some of the grocery stores had them too. And they'd choose an empty cardboard box that was suitable sized for the puppy we were getting.
Goodness.
And we would get a roll of paper towels. They would put newspaper in the cardboard box.
This is perfect.
And the puppy rode, usually my brother on one side, me on the other side, the puppy in the middle on the back seat, us holding the box. I bet we didn't even have to wear seatbelts back then.
Oh my goodness.
And we'd look at this puppy in the box, and sometimes the puppy sat quietly in the box. Sometimes the puppy screamed the whole way home in the box. But that's one of my most favorite memories, is no, I would never bring a puppy in a box home. Now I put my puppy in their crate.
Oh,
but it's, it shows how times have changed. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, and for your first drive home with the puppy, do not let them be loose in the car because they might fall off the seat. They might start investigating things. They might end up under the seat.
They might get car sick all over your lap.
They might get car sick. You do not need a distraction of a loose puppy while you're trying to drive the vehicle. So in a perfect world, bring someone with you who can drive for you so that you can, ideally the puppy rests comfortably in the crate the whole way home. But
and chances are they might scream too. Be aware of that. I remember I remember my son and I brought Honda home, and Ty would have been 6, and Honda was in a little crate and Ty was in his car seat in the back, and Honda screamed the whole way home. Goodness. And we had about an hour drive, and I could see Ty's face was just like, what have we got? He had definitely he had the Disney, as a 6-year-old would of this puppy, and the puppy just screamed blue murder, and I felt bad for Ty on that drive home.
Well, and that is probably going to be part of your experience as well, especially if it's their first time leaving their litter mates and their mother, etc. That's going to be a challenging time for them.
And it's scary being in a car too for some puppies.
It is, for sure. And having somebody else driving gives you the opportunity to say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to hold this puppy in my lap. I'm going to hold this puppy securely for now. And that way I'm not going to rehearse the screaming in the crate. And you have that option of offering the puppy a little bit more comfort and engagement, so to speak, for that first drive home. But if you're solo in the car, I would definitely use a crate for a puppy. Harnesses are great for some dogs as they get older if you don't have the room for a crate in your car. However, they require some training.
Yes.
Chances are if you just put a safety harness on your puppy and then lock them into the seatbelt, you're probably going to find that you're distracted because they're all tangled up in the seatbelt and the harness and whatnot. So that does require some training before you're actually going to use it practically. So most puppies, you'll be able to fit a puppy crate in the car. That really is your best bet if you are solo traveling for that. So what are some of the things that you are doing with your home when you're bringing a new puppy?
Well, with my home, I want to make sure there's nothing tiny on the floor that the puppy could swallow. So not that I have tiny things, but when my son was small, there might be little tiny Lego pieces or little tiny car pieces. So I'm going to make sure anything little is definitely picked up.
Perfect.
I might put some baby gates up to prevent the puppy from going up or down stairs or in rooms I don't want them to go in yet. I'm not going to, I puppy proof, but I don't take a ton out because I'm going to teach the puppy not to touch my stuff. Yes. So I'm going to leave scatter mats and plants and things out because when my puppy's loose, I'm watching them, and that's great opportunities to train. Yes. So I'm only going to move things that could cause imminent danger, like swallowing a coin or something like that. Right. But I'm still going to, my shoes are going to sit out at the counter, at the front door, not at the counter, at the front door. And when my new puppy heads over, the first day I'm telling them, no, leave those shoes alone. Yeah. They're not for you. So I puppy proof, but I don't go crazy because they're all teaching opportunities.
Yeah, I tend to be a little wimpier than that, I think. to put it honestly, I'm a little wimpier than that. So I don't want to end up having to do too much in terms of no for the first couple of days. So I absolutely 1000% agree with you for the longevity of the puppy. I'm not going to, for the life of this puppy, hide away my shoes. I'm going to teach my puppy that shoes are off limits. Right. But I don't necessarily like to do that until I have some communication with the puppy and I know how that puppy's going to respond, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Once I know the puppy a little bit more, then I'll start to push the envelope in terms of training things. But I've also, during that time period lapse, I've also spent some time starting to teach skills. Right. So I might have started to teach things like out. I know I will have. I honestly, the first things that I teach my puppies when I bring them home, because I always bring home tollers, it seems. I'm a creature of habit. And they are too. They love to have anything and everything in their mouth. Right. So right away I teach them an out command. And right away I teach them to respond to their name. Yes. Everything else sort of fills in as time goes on. Those are usually my first two things. That and tugging. I want my puppy to learn to play with me right away. I want my puppy to learn to play and hold on steadily to a toy and have a really good tug to things. And sometimes with tollers, they tend to have softer mouths. So sometimes that's a little bit of work. So I like to start that right away too.
Right, yes.
What do you start first?
I'd say housebreaking, of course.
Okay.
That's one of the first things. I want my dog to know that you go to the bathroom outside, not inside.
Yeah.
And then definitely a response to name. And just luring too. I want the puppy to be able to follow food, and I can lure them here, I can lure them there, I can lure them into a sit. So I want the puppy to know that following a treat pinched in my fingers is a good thing.
Yeah, perfect. Learning systems are so important. So a lot of the times we think it's just about training these specific skills, but our Puppy Essentials program spends a lot of time teaching actual learning systems. So teaching the dog how to understand what yes means. Yes being an event marker that says that's why you've earned the reward. So we want them to understand what yes means. We want them to understand how to lure, how to follow food so that we can move them into different positions and we can help them learn how to recall and all those things. So learning systems are so important. And once those learning systems are in place, the sky is the limit for what you can actually train your puppy to do. I mean, they're such brilliant creatures.
They are.
So as long as they understand and there's a communication factor there, they are going to really enjoy learning.
Right.
So
yes. Is there anything you think that's overlooked? So that you don't purchase, like when you buy a puppy, what is something maybe that a new person may not think to have that they're going to need?
Yeah, I mean,
I was thinking maybe like puppy shampoo.
Yeah,
that might not be something that
grooming
pops,
stuff.
Yeah, right into your mind. Yes.
Yeah,
because if you have a puppy that say has diarrhea in their crate, and puppies do stuff like that, you need to wash them, and you can't use human shampoo. It's a different pH.
Yep.
So have puppy shampoo right from the get-go.
Yeah, absolutely. What else might fall into that? You know, I might want to have a first aid kit on hand right off the bat. And I say this having a first aid kit in my car, a first aid kit in my home, and a first aid kit at work as well. I'm pretty well prepared.
Run to Shannon if you get hurt.
Absolutely. But like things like that, you don't really think about, I might need some vet wrap, or I might need some, an antibiotic cream or something like that. I might not want to rush to the vet right away with something. I might want to monitor it for a bit, but I want to make sure that I have some things on hand to try to speed along the healing if it's a minor enough wound that, that's going to be a good thing. Food bowls.
Yep, food bowls.
Talk to the breeder about what they've been feeding, because that first little while, even if you're planning on changing the puppy's food, that first little while I would keep them on a consistent food so that you're not upsetting their system. They're already under a lot of stress. So with those first couple of days, if your puppy is out of sorts and seems really like stressed about life, just let them ease into things. You know, don't put a lot of pressure on them.
Yes.
A lot of the times, like Ned, when he first came home, it was about 24 hours before he would even eat.
Right.
Like I would offer him food and he would just be like, nope, can't do it.
Right.
Can't do it. And he's a pretty steady Eddie guy, but it was an entirely different life for him.
Right. Yes.
And
he'd been on an airplane too. So
he had been, and he was an angel on the airplane. I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to like promise to buy wine for every single person?
A screaming puppy. Could you imagine on a plane? Yes.
Well, I was so stressed I had never flown a puppy home before. And the breeder doesn't ship puppies, which I completely appreciate. So I went out there to pick him up. And so he flew home with me in cabin underneath the seat. And the rules, when you read the rules, are very strict. Like the puppy cannot come out of the crate. They must fit into this. They must do this. They must do this. So I was like, oh my gosh, like what if they won't let us fly because he starts making noise?
Right.
Like what
happens?
Just don't even know what to do.
If he threw up or had explosive diarrhea.
So I pretty much like rattled right into the plane because I was so nervous about this whole situation and like, what if? Sometimes I talk myself onto the ledge so easily. And as soon as I got on the plane and I put I had upgraded the seat so that I had a little bit more space so I could stretch out with him on my way home. And I put the carrier on the dividing table between the two chairs for a moment. And as soon as the attendant came along, I was about to say like, oh, don't worry, I'm putting him under the seat. I'm just like getting settled. And she looked at the crate. It was a little fabric crate, of course, little travel crate. She looked at the crate and she went, come here, and beckoned over the other flight attendant. And the two of them were just like, about this puppy, because I mean, come on, he was adorable.
Right.
So I totally get it. They just like melted over this puppy, and right away they were like, oh, don't worry. You know what? If you need to take him out, you can take him out. Like,
oh, good.
And I was
yeah.
like, oh my God. You are my dream
Right,
people right
yes.
now, because I can't even tell you how stressed I was.
Right.
Like, and I didn't
Yes.
want to like have a drink on the plane, because I have this puppy and I want to be as sharp as possible.
Right.
So I was like, my nerves were just wrecked. And then
Oh,
all
it's
was
so
well.
nice. Yeah,
All was well.
yeah.
He slept the whole plane ride home. He didn't make a peep. Life was great.
Right.
I was so appreciative of
Yes.
that, because I was so worried about it. But anyways, it was a great experience.
Right. Yes.
And then we got home, and he spent about 24 hours being a little bit uncertain about his new setup. And then after that, it was like he'd just
Right,
been there
yes.
forever. And we've, now we're
yes.
here. The rest is history.
I along those lines, I do see that in our online classes. We often get people who, I just picked up my puppy this morning and he's not eating.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, just let them,
Give it a couple of days.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if you were in this, like if suddenly if you got snatched off to another planet, you're going to be the first, bit like, I don't think I'm going to eat this food they're offering me. I'm just going to sit back and survey the situation.
Yeah. Once you have feelings of safety and security, then you might try the Soylent Green.
Right. Yes. But then there's other puppies, of course, who are just, they come home and right away they gobble up, their food and they're, okay, I'll take you on.
That's a lab
So,
puppy.
yes. Yes. So
That's a
there's
lab puppy,
all
for
different
sure.
types of puppies out there. Yes.
Absolutely. But don't be surprised, if you spend a couple of days trying to coax the puppy to, exist rather
Right,
than
yes.
just trying to fade away into the corner. That's normal.
Right.
It is very normal. And I find that like the blanket smells and whatnot, those smells that you've acquired from the breeder and now you're using at home, I find those are really comforting for the puppy. Buy your crate ahead of time.
Definitely,
if
yes.
you can get away with it, get the crate that's going to fit the adult dog and then section off part of it so that the puppy doesn't have access to the entire crate. And that way you can make the crate grow with the puppy instead of having to buy several different sizes.
Right. Yes.
of
There's
crate.
wire crates you can buy that have that divider that you can just move along.
Yeah, absolutely. And the crate is what is going to allow you to create confident independence in your pup. And this is something that I think is really important to talk about whenever we're talking about a new puppy is getting your puppy accustomed to being left alone right away.
Right off the bat.
And I don't mean, bring your new puppy home, stick them in a crate and go to work for 8 hours. That's definitely not the thing.
No.
But put your puppy in the crate and, make sure that they're comfortable. Make sure that they aren't, screaming right off the bat sort of thing. When I have a new puppy and I bring them home, I make sure that they're well exercised when they go in. They've been out for a pee and a poo. All their needs are met.
Right.
And they're tired.
Yes.
So that for the first, few days or so, every time they rehearse going into the crate, they rehearse going into the crate and falling asleep, which is exactly what I want. I want them to start to associate the crate with calmness. And then I will very quickly start to do things like put my puppy in the crate and leave them and go and have a shower. As long as they're settled, I go and have a shower and then I come back.
You bring your puppy home the first day, put them in the crate and run to the store to get all the things you forgot to get.
Don't be that person.
No, don't be that person.
Don't be that person. Have your stuff ready so that, the shower is the time.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. Go make a coffee. Go walk around the house.
Right.
Do something that helps the puppy understand that you're not going to be there all the time.
Right, yes.
A lot of times people will give you this advice of, take all this time off work, which I don't disagree with taking some time off work. Take a few days off work.
Right.
So that you can decompress from this thing as well, because it's a big life
Oh,
change
right.
for
Yes.
us,
Like
too.
you're gonna lose sleep.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yes, we sometimes get questions of people asking like, when am I gonna get to be able to sleep in again? It's like never.
No, I usually give the puppy about a week.
Right. Yeah.
And then once that week is up, okay, if you wake up in the middle of the night, I'm going to encourage you to go back to sleep first rather than taking you out to go to the washroom right away. But be prepared that first week or so.
Yeah, you're going to be getting up.
You're probably going to have to
And
get
you're
up,
going to have a screaming puppy too.
Yes.
I've had puppies that I feel like they screamed the whole night.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a good point to make as well. If my puppy wakes me up in the middle of the night to go out for a pee, I've said that most of the time through the day, I'm going to make sure I meet my puppy's needs first before I put them in the crate. That is not the case at night. So if my puppy wakes up at 3 a.m. to go out for a pee, I am going to, without engaging with my puppy a whole lot, I'm going to take them out of their crate, put the leash on, carry them downstairs, carry them out to go to the bathroom, put them down, plant my feet, hold the leash, give them about a minute to pee or poo or do whatever they need to do. And then I'm going to scoop them back up and I'm going to put them straight back in the crate.
Right.
And that's a very
all
important
they get.
thing.
Yes.
I do not want to encourage my puppy to wake me up at 3 a.m. for a playtime.
No.
So I'm going to put the kibosh on that right away and make sure that my puppy doesn't overly enjoy waking up at 3 a.m. Not that I'm going to make it unpleasant, but I'm certainly not going to go out of my way to make it an engaging and wonderful time with my puppy.
Puppies are very much creatures of habit.
Oh, yeah.
And if they go, yesterday at 3 a.m., my owner played with me, I'm going to wake up again at 3 a.m. to play with. They do. They have these little internal alarm clocks. Yes.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah, they will soon get in a habit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another really common mistake that people make when they have other dogs existing at home as well is they bring the puppy home and they let the puppy just go and be loose with the other dog. And, sometimes this is dangerous, not just for your relationship, but also for the puppy. So be careful with that. Not all puppies or not all dogs are tolerant of puppies.
Right.
There can typically be what's called a quote unquote puppy pass for the first little while where they can get away with a little bit more, but that's not the case all the time. So there are exceptions to all of these things that are sort of, are fairly expected things.
Right, yes. And always keep in mind your older established dog, they didn't ask for the puppy.
Right.
This was your idea to bring the puppy home. So don't let the puppy bounce all over their head and, and torment them. You got the puppy for you, not for the other dog.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I spend a lot of time solo with my puppies first and building rules and building understanding and building skills.
Yes.
Right? So I expect my puppy to be able to respond to their name and give me focus when there's action going on before I start letting them spend any time with my other dogs. And there's a couple of reasons for that, but the biggest reason is that I want to make sure that my puppy bonds with me well.
Yes.
And if I'm competing with my other dogs in the home for that bond, first off, there's a very natural bond that's going to develop between my puppy and other dogs because it's their own species, right? Second off, I can't compete with my other dogs in terms of fun. I really can't. I can get close because I'm a pretty fun person. But when it comes to, puppy or dog play bow and then take off and run and a puppy getting to chase and all that
You could try that though, Shannon. You could try it. And you could wrestle with them too.
I'm going to put on some big floppy ears with my next puppy and I'm going to experiment a little bit. I do a lot of silly experiments, actually. That one's probably too silly for me too. But I do like to I'll go over into a corner of the yard, for example, and I'll be like, wow, look at this. What is this? Because I want to see if my dog's like, what? And if they're going to come running over to see what it is and investigate it too. And I just think it's like, those things are neat.
Right,
We're so in tune. That
Yes. I remember there was a loose dog at the park once that nobody could catch. And I just happened to be walking through with my son going to the playground. And they were all trying to catch this dog. And it was having a whale of a time staying away from them. And I went closer to the dog and I crouched down and I pretended I was moving the grass and playing with the grass. And I could see the dog going, what's that woman doing in the grass? And then I pretended to eat something out of the grass. And the dog just started coming over and very curiosity killed the cat. And I was able to gotcha, got the dog by the collar. And so the people had been chasing and calling, but the dog was intrigued by what I was silently doing in the grass that captured its attention.
Oh my goodness.
So it is fun, those type of experiments.
Yeah. I just like to see how my dogs react at things. Do they are they in tune enough with me when I get excited about something that they're like, oh, what is it? I want to know. I want to know. And then sometimes when they're really paying attention to something and sniffing it out, I'll go running over too and be like, what do you got? What do you got? And they're like, look at this. Look at this thing. It's really cool. It's like a dried up earthworm or something. But I'm like, wow.
As long as you don't roll on it.
Amazing. I might.
Roll.
I might. I make no promises. No promises whatsoever. Alrighty. Oh my goodness. Well, this has been a super fun episode. So I am going to say farewell on that one. So thank
farewell.
you for watching. So long, farewell. Alvida Zena Jude.
I don't know the words,
Oh my
but
gosh.
I knew the
I love
tune.
the sound of
Yes,
music.
I love the sound. It was
What a
on the other
wonderful-
day. I love that movie. I get so angry though, that blonde 16-year-old boy who rats out the family.
Yes.
Get very angry at him.
Different world, eh?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Anyways, on that note, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Instructor Christine.
Happy
Swanny.
training.
The McCann Dogs podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at mccanndogs.com. Happy training!